And welcome back. Hopefully, you enjoyed that commercial break that we have there. And we're here to talk about the last couple of things. The big one that I want to show you guys is the Lorville Redux, I think is what they called it. And I think Jaglin's going to throw that up on the screen. I'm going to be honest. I'm probably the only one here, but I absolutely hate Lorville today. I avoid it like the plague. I avoid it more than I avoid Area 18. I'm not a fan. And let me tell you, I find the Lorville rebuild amazing. So I'm really excited about it. Excuse me, Jolly, what are your thoughts on the Lorville redo? Because I know you spend a lot of your time at Lorville.
I do. I love Lorville. It's simple, it's quick and easy to get in and out of, as long as you don't mind the smog. But it's easy to go to. Let's put it this way: I do a lot of mining. I'm at ArcL1 to refine it. I take it to Lorville. I don't bother with Area 18. Area 18 is too much a pain in the butt to get into and finding the damn landing area. So I go to Lorville, which shows out quite simply. I like the fact they're expanding it out, make it look more like a city, less of an industrial complex. In terms of gameplay, I don't think it matters. In terms of visuals, I think it'll be nicer. But one thing I am concerned about is, and all of us have been there before, if you go to Lorville a lot, is you're flying in there in the smog at night, and all you're looking for is, please show me that building. It'll point me which way to look at, and I'll look for the landing lights. I can see myself running into a high-rise apartment complex as I'm trying to come in to land at Lorville. So that's one thing
I
I'll see what
definitely
happens.
see that being a problem because it looks like you have to fly between the buildings to get to the shuttle area.
Steep angle attack is what we'll be taking from here on out.
Yep. Nom, what are your thoughts?
Well, any improvement to that place, I don't hate it. I mean, I'm don't hate it or love it, but this looks great. And my only main question, they're making it much bigger. The question is, how fast is that train going to go?
It needs to go
have you ever
faster.
taken the train out to one of the gates lately? How long that takes?
It's a long ride.
It takes 5 minutes to get to the 5 minutes.
So that thing better go a lot faster. It better move like an Orison shuttle if they're going to put it out that far.
I completely agree. Frack, how much time do you spend at Lorville, and what do you think of the rework that they're showing us?
So Lorville is my starting city, similar to what Jolly said, mainly because it's the quickest in and out of. I don't like cities in general. I'd live my life off a carrier if I could. I think the rework is beautiful. I have the same concerns about if they make it big and cumbersome to get through. I mean, I really do spend as little time as possible in cities. You have to go to them for certain things. So I'll miss the old Lorville if the new one takes forever to get through to get stuff done so I can get back into space.
I completely agree. The quicker you can get to space, the better. The reason why Orison, no one is there except for Siege of Orison. Turn, what are your thoughts? I know you currently or don't. Tell me, what are your thoughts on Lorville? Fan of it? Not a fan of it? Do you think
I don't mind it. I don't really have an affinity one way or the other for it. I'm usually an Area 18 person. That's where my starting location is because I tend to think it's easy to get in and out of Area 18. I don't know why. I don't typically have an issue with it. Maybe it's the smog at Lorville or whatever. But, unlike Frack, I see myself finding an office complex somewhere where you'll see me with a coffee cup looking out of the window, as the bean counter machine goes off behind me because that's my job. I'm interested in seeing that since they're expanding the Lorville play area, are we going to get back into having actual missions at cities? Everybody remembers, I hope, if you were here long enough, you used to be able to run missions in the Lorville system. You had to, if you to earn some credits, if you needed some credits, you could take a box from L18 to or area 18 or whatever it was, 19 on the hab area, out to one of the gates. And it took for flipping forever because the train takes forever to get there. But there's actual missions you can do. I can see that being sort of like what they're doing in the underground bunkers that we just talked about, the underground facilities, maybe making it so that you have some actual gameplay in these cities. That would be exciting to me.
I'm gonna be honest. I miss all of the box runs we used to do in New Babbage. Hop in a Pisces, fly around New Babbage, and right there in that system, and to and from, and do box missions it was wonderful. I enjoyed it.
Where
a
else
lot.
can you see landing a Carrack on top? You know, just the ramp
Yeah,
on top of the building.
pinnacle
Oh,
landings. Yeah,
you know.
I completely agree. Soul, last but again not least, what are your thoughts on the redo of Lorville?
I think it has a lot of potential. I like the current Lorville and seeing it get bigger. It's definitely got to look better, but it all comes down to the navigation. I mean, it's a usability thing. If the trains stay at the current rate, it's probably not going to be that great. If they get faster, it's good. So it all depends on what they actually do with the mechanics of it.
So let me ask you this question. Do you think that they're in the process of getting ready for player housing? Is that the reason they're redesigning some of these cities?
I don't think they're at that point yet. They might develop player hangars, but I don't think they're looking at player housing.
Player hangars, player housing. That's all the same as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I don't think they're at that yet. I could see that coming later on down the line, but
I think
don't
this is
think
the
we're going to see that in
foundation for it,
4.0.
though. I think
Probably
this is
laying the initial foundation. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Turn.
They already kind of have. You know, if you want to go see what we're talking about, go to like Area 17 on ArcCorp. You can land on top of those buildings. You'll see the elevator system that they put in even back then at ArcCorp. It wasn't functional. Fast forward to New Babbage, you can land on top of those buildings. You can actually go inside the elevator lobby. There's a Covalex box, but still there's not anything, that you can go beyond that. You can't go from there. Potentially they could tease with the new Lorville. You can actually go inside the elevator lobby. Maybe you could go down to a floor. Maybe there'll be something up underneath there. Who knows?
I'm excited. I think it may be coming. I think that not in 3.18 or 4.0, but I think that part of this is them starting to set that up, because ultimately in these major cities, we're going to need to have some form of player hangar, player housing combo kind of thing that you can use. And I think that that's their plan, is to use these buildings. Frack, what are your thoughts? Do you think that's what they're doing, or do you think it's just for delivering packages?
I suspect it's tied to the hangars. But part of what we didn't talk about that I think is a real positive step is, this is working towards the elimination of the no-fly zones also, which makes the overall, surface and surrounding area of these cities, frankly, more fun and explorable. Are we to the point where they're looking at player housing? I have no idea. But they've been pretty clear that our personal hangars are coming. And if they attach that to these, revamped cityscapes that don't have no-fly zones where you can take your ship kind of anywhere you want, including to your personal hangar, that'd be great.
I'm excited for it. And I think, I'm not saying it's going to happen immediately, but I think this is laying the groundwork for those. And I think Area 18 is going to be the cheapest in the Stanton system because there's just so much. Jolly, what are your thoughts?
Well, I gave them earlier, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it's been a big plus.
Do you think this is related somehow to the private hangars?
I don't see any connection whatsoever myself that I've heard or read.
Fair enough. Well, let's move on to the last segment that we're going to the second to the last, and that is Outlaw Lifestyle. And Nam, I'm going to toss this over to you because I actually didn't even get to see this video, so I'll be watching it with you. I don't
remember they actually talked about a lot. They had like a showcase of different locations. There's a video to play.
Yep, we're going to be playing that right now.
Yeah, I think that's up on there now. Yeah, they were basically showcasing these different quote unquote outlaw locations, which makes sense since they're talking about pyro as well. From what I understand, most all of your landing locations and such on these planets and moons are going to be these locations we're looking at here. Matter of fact, that there is from the demo they did where the guy was stealthing into an outpost to steal an artifact from a year or two ago.
Yep.
And that was on the
from
yellow
last
moss.
Year.
Yeah, that was the planet with the yellow moss everywhere.
Yep.
And this is all just giving us a taste of the style they're going to have for all these outposts you're going to find scattered around the pyro system. And it's just shows they've been making a lot of progress. They got a lot of assets to work with. So hopefully by the time we get Pyro and 4.0 middle of next year, we hope there'll be a lot of this to explore and check out. And yep, that's pretty much all there is to it. Just
yep.
Okay.
Frack, are you excited to raid some of those big outposts there that are? Go ahead.
I think it's great. I think, you know, right now when you look at, you know, whether you're talking about on the NPC side or the player side, basically, you know, Outlaw players have Grimhex and Prison are kind of the two places you can be based out of. I think that, you know, supplying base locations, outposts, gathering points for the people who engage in that type of play is long overdue. I know I would be excited if I was on that side of the gameplay. I'm just as excited being on our side of the gameplay because it gives us more places to go find them.
Yep. And maybe places that aren't Armistice Zone where we could go in and, you know, attack.
Yep.
Lawfully. Use the lawful there.
Totally.
And then last but not least, we've got, you know, Chris Roberts spoke for the better part of 2 hours, I believe. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that number.
Just under 2 hours.
Just under 2 hours. And he rambled on. The truth is that you have to go watch that video because it was all over the place, but it was chock full of a lot of good information. But we can't do it justice without spending 2 hours on it. I think what I'm going to ask is for each of us to take, you know, one thing that he said there that we felt was really impactful for our viewers. So I'm going to start with Soulhawk. Soulhawk, do you have anything out of that 2 hour conversation that was the most impactful for you?
I gotta say the EVA rework, and they talked about the fact that you'd have to have a pack, an EVA pack now to do it. So that changes the dynamic for people who are solo gun fighters. People are going outside, they lose the access to the backpack. There's limited fuel in the EVA pack. There's a whole lot to unpack there, even without getting into the nitty gritty of all the animation stuff they showed and all that. Just the fact that you're going to have an EVA pack to do it is something to pay attention to.
I completely agree. I think that's going to logistically impact a lot of players. Turn, what was the big thing that jumped out at you?
Revamping that damn star map.
Oh yeah.
So we're getting a new star map. They've talked about it, and I think the other thing that they talked about was an actual mini map. Yeah, if you're going to have a lot of these places where you're going to have to, you know, navigate around in cities and outposts, et cetera, it would be really good to have a mini map. It's a standard and staple in most MMOs to be able to have something, you know, along that, or at least be able to push a button and get a ground surface view of it. But just revamping that star map that we have today will be something that I'll definitely look forward to.
You know, the one thing that I like about a mini map is it probably will have cardinal directions on it.
We can only hope.
We can only hope that they give us a compass. Come on, CIG, a compass. What I wouldn't give to have a compass built into our helmets. Frack, what was the big thing that jumped out at you?
EVA for sure. The rework with the push-pull and you know, changing the orientation that you EVA in, but since that was already taken, I think the personal scanner, the ability to pulse scan, has a lot of potential. I think it also has a lot of risk with how they implement it. I hope they get it right. I certainly don't want a scanning wall hack that's going to kind of undermine tactical FPS gameplay. But you know, the ability to scan for items of interest and hopefully have a compass, like you said, that goes with that would be great.
Yes. Compass and GPS coordinates or something equivalent to that are too high on my list. Nam, what was your big one?
Well, both what they said there was important to me, but the one stood out to me was radar, long distance radar, and what it meant for travel. They showed where you would put out a long distance ping, you'd get something 10, 20,000 kilometers out, and then you'd use the new quantum mode, you'd be able to move in on that location. I mean, that's huge to me. I mean, that's, you know, they're kind of tied together from the, you know, you get a ping on something that in turn gives you a quantum destination to spool up your quantum to go to. And it's not going to be in this. Well, I'm going to be burning down for 1,000 kilometers. It's going to be a while. I'm going to get a cup of coffee. Now you can shorten that trip, and I know that's a common gripe for you, Jolly, where they burned in way too much time-killing stuff into this game.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one step towards cutting out one of the more annoying time wastes.
I would say
serves absolutely nothing.
One quick correction there, Nom. It's 20. They were showing 10 to 20,000 kilometers.
That's what I thought I'd said that. Yeah, 10 to 20,000 kilometers. Yes.
Yep,
Yeah. So we're talking long distance scanning. It's like
the ability to detect people at range.
Right. Way outside of the normal ship radar. This is you get a ping that something's there, but you don't know what it is.
It's something, Jay. It's not exactly
Correct.
detailed, but it's something more than that you can then push that other boost mode or whatever it is to travel to. Yeah.
You know, the air group guys aren't going to like that, like white on rice. I can see them using that quite a bit to go, I wonder what's over there to kill. Jolly, what was the number one thing that jumped out at you?
Actually, it wasn't a feature they talked about. It was Chris Roberts' approach to the whole thing, the whole segment. I feel I read a lot of the different sources out there covering Star Citizen. There's been a lot of complaints that targeted towards RSI and CI that they're spending all their dev time on Squadron 42 and PU is going to the wayside. Of course, everybody's involved PU. No one's involved in Squadron 42. And I think he went out of his way to try to emphasize, look, we're not wasting our time in Squadron 42 because all this stuff is going to come over to the PU eventually. Now, it's probably going to be over there at PU until it goes live, but he is correct. They're not wasting their time. It's just he's looking further out in the future. I think a lot of us, and I'm one of them, we look more, 318, 319, if there's a 19, or whatever. We're interested in right here, right now, because we're playing the game. I know we're testers, but we are playing the game. And I think he's got a little frustrated with that. And so he spent a lot of time trying to explain, look, don't harass us about spending time of our dev time on 42. It will directly apply to the PU.
Yep. So to our viewers, we've got about 20 viewers right now the last time I looked, and would love to have more, but that'll be a good start. If you've got, what is the favorite thing that you found in this segment that you found most interesting? And let's cover that when we get to our questions and answers. Now, mine, I had two. One, skills and attributes, and hoping that they are only going to implement that in Squadron 42. I think it would be to the detriment of the game to implement that in Star Citizen, the MMO. And then number two, the biggest one for me was the fact that you're not going to be able to sit down in your seat fully armed with backpacks and long guns at some point. I think that that's a good thing. It's going to create logistics that you're going to have to think about for storage and getting to that equipment, depending on what kind of missions you're doing. And I think it's going to be a big impactor that you're going to have to take into consideration about making sure that you've got the right gear for the right people on these larger multi-crew ships. So I think those are the two big ones that I caught. I know that there are others here that think that the whole skills thing in an MMO is not something we're excited about, but I wanted to highlight that. So what are your thoughts on things that Chris Roberts talked about in the last 2 hours of the show? Go ahead and post them. Go ahead. No, sorry.
I was going to say on what you're just talking about there, I think it's worth, because I got kind of a different take on it, but I think, Frack, you have some thoughts on the skills thing and what that means, right?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay, so you can turn me down. That's good. No.
Well, he's got to get his flamethrower started up.
He's got to wake up the cougar.
Really a bad thing. I mean, depending on what they do. I mean, if you go full RPG, no, that's crazy. But if it's just a mild buff, just a little bit, you can get just a little bit further reach. You can just a little more strength, just a minor buff to strength, agility, endurance, fitness, and it could even, and the reason I think it could be a good thing is it goes back to the death of a spaceman, where they want to give you a reason not to take stupid risks, to just I'm just going to backspace now to get out of here. That's easier. Well, if you've had to get a slight buff on your character, there's people not gonna be like, I don't want to do that because my character's regened a lot lately, and they have had that. They've talked about how as there's going to be a degradation of your clone after a while every time you regenerate. I mean, there can be consequences. One of those consequences could be you lose things like this, and then if you have the final permadeath, and you have to draft up a new character. That character starts from 0. You lose all those buffs you've earned up over time. So that gives you an incentive not to just throw your character away because it's more time expedient.
Okay.
I mean, it depends on how far they go with the buff. If they make it silly like an RPG, then that's breaking the game, I feel.
So,
But
Frack, you got the flamethrower ready?
Good thing.
I'll
Go ahead, Frack. Hear me up.
I'll keep it mild. Here's the concern that I have with it. One is personal, and that's that I want Star Citizen to be a player skill based game, not a build your character based game. Here's the bigger problem I have, all the way back to Ultima Online. Every MMO that has attempted to implement a repetitive use skill buff system has been exploited to the extremes. And so you either make it so ineffective that it doesn't matter, at which point there's no point to having it, or you risk whether it's the old days of putting your eraser on your space bar while you go for a jog while your character jumps up and down in your house, or macroing your gladius in a circle so that you gain G resistance while you're not even playing. That's the concern I have, is that if you bake this so that it matters, people will do anything and everything to max that out. And essentially it's encouraging people to exploit and to some degree cheat. That's my issue with it.
Yeah. If pulling G's, mild G's, increases your ability to pull them, somebody will go out in the middle of space and build a joystick device that will grab the joystick and put it into a spin.
Just macros everywhere.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. And until their G sensitivity is minimal, or G, sensitivity is maximum, whatever is best for them.
And then if you're unwilling to do that, you're at a disadvantage, and it's a disadvantage, created by the devs that forces you to engage in that behavior in a game that to some degree there's a competitive aspect to it.
Go ahead, Jolly.
I was just going to say, I was just going to pick up boxes and drop them for an hour and see if I can increase my strength.
Right.
Might help. But in seriousness, though, no one brings up a really valid point as to what might be the purpose behind this. Has more value behind your character living, as opposed to, I'll just start over again. It's no big deal. But Noam also has a valid point, and so does what Frack was saying. Let's not get carried away with this stupidity. One thing I do like about the PU is it's not a matter of, hey, I suck at the game, but you know what? I'm level 46 and you're level 5. You're good, but it doesn't matter. I'm a 46. I win. That's not what we want at all.
Yeah. It's one thing maybe to have them nibble at the edges, but I'm concerned about it. I don't necessarily think that's a good plan for MMO. It should be skills based, and 99.9% skills based, in my opinion. So, any other comments on Chris Roberts' data dump, for lack of a better term? Okay. Well, I'm going to have Joni do a little flash on the screen here for editing purposes. You good? Okay. She's written it down. I think we're going to go to questions and comments. So, Halcyon has this question, or this comment. That's the one thing I dislike is permadeath, because griefers and pad rammers just kill you over and over, and poof, you lose your character. Yeah, I think that would be bad. Don't get me wrong, but it's probably for the better, because let's be honest, griefers and pirates and things like that are probably going to get killed a lot more than your average player. And my general philosophy is, if you attack us and you eject, we're going to blow up your pod. Because don't mess with us. We won't mess with you unless, just don't mess with us. What are your thoughts, Jolly, on this?
No, I agree with what he's saying. But But bear in mind, I think griefers are still going to be a problem in this game. I do think RSI is trying to do what they can to limit their impact, and maybe they do a little bit more. Bear in mind, that's not pirates. Pirates are different than griefers, big time difference. But I agree with what Halcyon's saying there. Is I hate to lose the fact, I hate to lose my stuff I've worked for over a grief as opposed to I lose it because, well, I suck at the game, which is all right with me.
I understand. Sol, what are your thoughts on this?
I think there's still a lot to be worked out in the permadeath and what all you lose carrying over. The griefers are going to be a problem. They're always going to be a problem in online games like this. It's more what systems they put in to mitigate them, and we haven't seen all those yet. We've seen the barest beginnings of them, really.
I completely agree. Nam, what are your thoughts on griefers and permadeath, and how what kind of problems do you see with that?
It just depends on where CIG balances it. I mean, every indication we've had is it's not like you're going to, if you die 5 times on a new character, it's going to be way more gradual than that from what I understand.
Yeah, but
And
if
you're
you
gonna
get killed 20 times by griefers in a week, it might be a problem.
Yeah, and you're right. And it might be. But honestly, I mean, you're going to get, it's going to happen on occasion. You get in the right spot, wrong place at the wrong time. But I haven't got a good answer for it. But
Okay.
I just
That's
I
fine.
don't know how often you're actually going to encounter that much unless you just you're just doing the repetitive, trying the same thing over and over. If you're getting ganked every time you go to a particular place, you're going to have to change up your game.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I completely agree. But I mean, the flip side of that is that griefers are griefers, and they'll go pick on newbies as best they can because they put up the least amount of fight. Turn, what are your thoughts on permadeath versus pad rammers and griefers?
Well, pad rammers and griefers, those people suck no matter what system you have in the game. My problem with permadeath is that it drives almost a need to have something that's going to disappear when I die, which, what is that going to be besides money or something? Because if we're talking about a game where it's supposed to just be my skill, my ability to go in and practice, and I get better by playing, what does permadeath really mean to me? I start over with a new character. Okay, well, everything's in my brain, so what's the deal? What am I actually going to lose? So I think we need a lot more information on what does permadeath actually do. And I'm concerned about the idea and the concept of permadeath drives us into places that we may not really want to go.
I'm in
reputation
agreement.
is one thing.
Well,
okay, reputation, but that's that's a game mechanic, and I think I could probably live with that. But if it's something like skills based or something of that nature, that means they have to implement that skills based thing into the game. So it's beyond credits, or maybe I don't get the biggest hanger that I had before because I'm inherited it from my granddad or something like that. I just think there's a lot more to it, and the only thing I've really heard right now is it's a way for you not to be risky in the game. Well, I mean, the game is risky, man. So what are you really losing with it? I think there's a lot more that needs to be determined on that.
I agree. Frack, what are your thoughts?
I think it's a balancing nightmare. I think that on the one hand, when it comes to the game itself, I would be on the side of, I think that death needs to mean something. There needs to be penalty associated with that because that drives more realistic decision making on what people do. When there's no cost to death, the most sociopathic players get even worse because there's literally no consequence to them doing what they're doing. And so having some level of penalty, I think, is a positive thing. From an internal training standpoint, I get concerned about things like if Arena Commander doesn't become a viable simulated training environment, things like our fighter training where we kill each other every day, all day, becomes a problem in the PU. And I don't know how that's going to work out in the future. Marine live fire training where we're shooting each other. Once a system like permadeath comes in, that could just bring all of that to a halt if we don't have a simulated alternative to that. And I think that hurts us in the long run.
I'm going to be honest. I think that they're going to do away with permadeath because of the wailing and gnashing of teeth. I don't think it's a good game mechanic. I think it's short-sighted in an MMO where there's all this stuff. I think that there'll, be some degradation, and you got to go pay to get your body back to 100% or regen or whatever. And there probably will be some death penalty when you get killed, but I think the permadeath thing is going to go away. I do not see that making it to go live personally. I think the wailing and mashing of teeth will be too much, and they'll give in on it. Who agrees with me? Show of hands.
I don't think if you mean permadeaths like Dark Souls type consequences, yeah, I don't think they're ever going to go that
No,
harsh.
I mean having to change the name of your character or something like that. I don't think they're going to do it. I think that they're going to.
It's a nightmare. I mean, how
It's
does
a nightmare.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah,
I
you're
mean,
right, because it's like right now it's like, yeah, that's another name tracker. That's going to be another line in the database they have to track. So okay, here's my 20th character name.
You're going to see turn
reporting for duty.
You're going to know how many times I permadeath by the number of A's after my Turin Atmos name or something.
Or the
like
number
that,
behind, Turin Atmos 297.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to rent a vowel by the time I get ready to get it. So
yeah, I just don't think they're going to do it.
It's too much. It's too much. Now that doesn't mean that there's not going to be consequences, and I do agree with Frack. If you don't have something, then everybody just starts ramming into everybody or something like that.
The sociopaths take over,
and you can take away things that you have to build back from a game perspective, like reputation, like credits, like maybe your stuff got sold at auction, when your granddad bought the farm over Lyria the last time or something.
I don't think they're going to do that.
You've got to be able to do something, but
inheritance tax.
I don't. Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a penalty that you have to overcome, and then even along that lines, you've got problems because you could end up in an EVE Online type situation where you have organizations that will be more than happy to front people's death penalty in order for them to get certain gameplay out. So it's a balancing nightmare.
It's going to be a nightmare, and they should avoid it. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Stavler says, in the current state, Orison is definitely the largest if you count the Siege of Orison space, but Babbage has quite a bit of thought to it. The others, I'm not sure. I think he's talking about the landing zones. I agree, Babbage it is not as big as Area 18 by any stretch of the imagination, and definitely does not look like it will be. It'll be about the same size or maybe smaller than Lorville. But Orison is awful. It's just too long. Now, that may go away. I'm kind of hopeful with what they showed us that that we'll be able to use the speed to get into Orison, in and out of Orison quicker. What do you think about that, Frack, from your perspective? Do you think the new speed changes will make Orison a more viable starting location?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I absolutely do. That quantum boost mode really solves a lot of issues for short range travel in and out of Atmo. It's going to depend on, what they didn't talk about and what we don't know is we know there's usually in the Atmo side some pretty broken flight models with how certain ships behave in atmosphere. We don't know how the new quantum mode, quantum boost, and all of that is going to change that. They've talked a little bit since our last HangarReady and since CitizenCon about they're using this opportunity as they implement the new mode into the other ships of looking at retuning how mediums and heavies perform and trying to find a better balance there. So if they really are using this flight model change to go back and look at each and every ship and how they perform in all these different modes in and out of atmosphere, it's going to shuffle the entire deck in terms of how we think of ships right now. But the big unanswered question with regard to Orison is how the quantum boost mode affects in and out of atmosphere. And it has the potential to make that trip basically instantaneous, and then it becomes irrelevant and Orison becomes more viable. They could also just lower the altitude requirement and fix it right now, and make it 10K up, just like everything else.
Well, the flip side of that is that I think getting in may be a little hard still, but getting out looks like it'll be a lot quicker with that quantum boost mode. It looks like you'll be able to get out of there really quick. Turn, what are your thoughts on Orison and the space there and them fixing it? Would quantum boost fix it? Yeah.
Well,
and
I think you're going to have to be concerned, just like Frack said, about what does that mean? What does quantum boost mean from inside the atmosphere? Because right now, when you hit quantum, if there's an asteroid in front of you or something like that, you just go right through it. So they may just go ahead and just disregard atmospheric inputs as soon as you hit the quantum boost. I don't think it's going to help you getting down to it, but you have to kind of at least have a target to look at before you do it, and it'll also mean whether or not do I just hold it down and I go for a few distance, and so I have to get really skilled about being able to, like we used to do in the past, where you would try to transverse around the planet and hit your power button in order to stop midterm or something like that. I actually think that Area 18 offers the most space currently. I think when you start
without
talk
a
about
doubt.
largest, it's not really Area 18. It's just ArcCorp in general. I mean, how many people know that I think there's 5 locations on the surface of ArcCorp that you can actually set a quantum beacon to and travel to. They all look the same. They're just empty. Well, there's a little variation between 17 and 4, and I think 6 is another one or something like that. But they all have buildings you can land on, and all have buildings that could in the future be potential for player habs, player bases, player hangars and stuff. So I don't think Orison, the way it is right now, is, unless they fix the atmospheric just mountain that you have to overcome to get out of it, is going to be any more populated than it currently is.
I agree. But
Yeah, because the reality is you have to fly that high because you can't quantum out of there now. If you can't quantum out of there now, it would take a complete change in how quantum works to be able to quantum boost out of there.
well, but it looks like that's the way quantum boost is basically a fast fly mode. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yep.
So Hawk, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm hopeful that the quantum boost will let us get out of there faster, because right now it's painful. It's really painful. And
Even
just
in
even be
fast
able to
ships.
get out, if we can't get back, that'd just be a huge improvement.
Yep. Nom, your thoughts? Do you think Orson becomes more viable if we can quantum boost down to it?
If we could, yes, but I didn't see anything mentioned that addressed quantum in atmosphere or at below the altitudes we're already allowed to go at. So really, there's nothing to go on there for me.
Okay, and Jolly, last but not least.
Either they change it so we can do the quantum boost to and into and out of Orson, or they simply reduce the altitude. Instead of having to go 175K away, I can make it 15K away, and then I can get into a quantum.
Okay. Well, guys, we are at the hour and a half mark, and I think we had a pretty good show. Jacqueline, if you can, yep, never mind. She's already got the stuff back up there about subscribe and click the little bell icon for us. Leave some comments below about what you think of the show. I think we got to all the good, for most of the questions. Jolly, how do you think the show went tonight?
Show went great. I'm glad we got to finish up the CitizenCon that we started last weekend and finish it this time to hit all the stuff. Even then, we didn't hit 100% of the things that were covered in the CitizenCon. But
not by far.
Yeah, we hit enough of it. If you by chance missed the con or you had to step away for it, hopefully we caught you up on that stuff.
Good. Nom, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, we touched on all the things that interested me. I didn't know if we'd get through all this in this segment, but I'm glad we did. If you're getting back to the long rambling talk at the end of the sitcom video, they hadn't had that uploaded initially. You got to go to the full upload that's like 5.5 hours long, and about 3.5 hours in is when Chris Roberts starts. So if you want to go watch that piece, that's where you got to find it, on the Star Citizen YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Frack, final thoughts for the show tonight?
Good show, good sitcom. Hardest part about teasers like this, especially when it involves major flight model changes, is the wait. So I'll be waiting impatiently.
Okay, sorry about that. I thought I heard something in the house. Turin, final thoughts?
I enjoyed the CitizenCon, even though it's virtual. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to be back in person again. There's a lot of stuff that's coming down the pike. It's very interesting. It's got me excited about the changes that are coming. And it just kind of reaffirms that they are actually beginning to get some traction. So I still think I still think it's a long way off, unfortunately. But between then and now, there's going to be a lot of exciting things happening.
I agree completely. And Soulhawk, what are your thoughts?
It's definitely fun to see the convention and see the progress and just see things develop through the years. It's definitely good to see, considering how long we've all been waiting for this game.
I agree completely. Couple of notes here. We will be doing our next show on November 5th at 2 p.m. U.S. Central Time. That will be for our EU viewers. So that's November 5th at 2 p.m. Quick show of hands here real quick. Who thinks that CitizenCon 2023 will be in person? Raise your hand. I don't think so. I'm going to be in the. It's so much easier for them to just broadcast it. I think that's what they'll do. I
Money.
do not, it's cheaper. Yeah, it's a lot cheaper for them to do it. So
They can put the gatherings on the membership or the player base.
Bar
by doing the Bar Citizens.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
And
that's what they'll
honestly, it is
That's a good point.
for what it would gain them. For what it would gain them, what would it gain them versus the amount of resources and time they have to devote to get ready for that thing. It's a huge distraction.
Well, I honestly think this was all pre-recorded. I don't think
Yeah.
that they did this live. I think they
Well,
pre-recorded.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They
That's what I
pre-
mean. Is that's why I don't think it'll be an actual live event.
Well, but
As
I'm
in
saying
person.
even the part with Chris Roberts going on for 2 hours, I think was pre-recorded. I do
That's
not
what-
think they did not stream that live.
It started on time. That should
Yes.
be enough indicator.
That's enough indication
Major
that it was
clue.
major clue.
I thought you were
It was-
talking about. I thought you were talking about in person. It's like
No,
it's just such an expense in time.
I'm talking about. I asked the question I asked was about in person, but I was just commenting that this con, this was all pre-recorded, 100% of it. There was none of this that was live. They just had one big file they hit play on, and then had it scheduled to upload the YouTube videos for the different segments as they finished them up.
They had an intern in the office going boop after everyone was done. You know,
I don't think so. I think that they actually had it scheduled down to the minute to show up on YouTube. I do not think they had an intern pressing a button. So
Well, it's
that's
cheaper.
my.
It's cheaper for them to dispatch 2 to 3 individuals to a bar citizen in a city
Yep.
than to put
I
together an
completely agree.
entire
Yeah.
convention.
The
If they're not-
transitions were the transitions between segments were too clean and too timely for it not to be pre-planned like that.
Especially
I-
considering some of their previous stuff.
So just quick show of hands, and then we'll call the show. Show of hands that think the next physical in-person CitizenCon is at the year that they release Squadron 42.
All right. Yeah.
So
So
see
the
you in
only one that's
2024.
not sure is Frack.
I got nothing.
You got nothing.
I got no argument.
So here's a question. Show of hands. The next physical CitizenCon, who's going?
I hope so.
Well, yeah. I mean, we all hope.
Yeah.
You know.
Jolly didn't raise his hands. I guess he doesn't
I
want
have
to.
no bloody idea.
We're all getting older.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Oh,
Checking
My
my
son,
pulse.
my son. I'll probably be sending my son. You know.
your grandson. Okay, guys, thank you very much for showing up. I want to thank my co-host Jolly, the deputy commander of ADI, Nomidius, who is a senior director of exploration and survey, Frack, senior director for our fleet security division, Turin, who is a member of the board and is our finance officer. And last, but certainly not least, is Soulhawk, who manages our operations, our logistics and training team. So we'll be back here, at least 4 of us, on November 5th at 2 p.m. And always come check us out either on Discord or hit us up at ADI. Everyone have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you in next month. Bye.
Bye all.